Hello, my name is Francis Fox, and I have been trained in all psychic skills. I came into this incarnation with the intention of using psychic abilities to access extra information from the other dimensions, to be able to share it so that people would be able to make better decisions, have less suffering, etc. Um, the decisions are easy. Living through what I chose was not easy, but you already know that. We don't need to go into that. Today, I wanted to talk to you about dimensions. And I already sketched the collective of this group of people, whether they're here yet or not. This is what we look like. The red, the fire is coming up. We do still have the protection, lots of depression. And this triangle, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but we just had the news about the results of the Trump trial. And I'm sure that half of the people are partying, the other half of the people are in a rage. Lots of emotions. And I suspect that that is why this is jutting up here. This week, we're supposed to have another run in with solar flares. They're actually going to leave the sun and they're going to come to this planet delivering extra fire. The last time they did that was the 10th or the 11th. And it created a lot of issues in the other dimensions which people are not familiar with. And thank God the grid, the electrical grid, didn't go down. They don't know if this week, I think it's starting today, that we may have problems with the grid. The solar flares deliver fire, the element of fire, which is what gives human beings vitality. We need the fire element, but it has to be balanced with the earth, water, air, etc. And it's not. There's too much fire. So with the election results, the trial results, plus the solar flares that apparently are going to be spraying us again with more of the energy of fire, which is just going to augment the hate and the tension, I think we're going to have a very interesting week, like a before and an after week. But let's go ahead and go into the other dimensions. And for that, I have to put up my um, graphic of the human assemblage of bodies. Nobody can skip any of these bodies. There's not a person that doesn't have all of these bodies. And we just found out recently that some of the reason for alien invasion and possessions, which are like the zombie issue, which we're already seeing all over the place in the news with people whose bodies are doing crazy things, weird things, and they are not themselves. We have found out this week that the off-planet beings want our assemblage of bodies, what I'm going to put on screen in a moment, but they particularly want the body that's at all the way at the right, which is our galactic vehicle. Now, that body has been known about forever. It's a very big part of Judaism. It's part of metaphysical history. This is not new. I didn't come up with it or anything original about it, as a matter of fact. But let's go over all of the bodies first. You have your physical body all the way at the left, and it is only on the physical dimension. The physical dimension has limitations. The physical body has limitations. It has planned, programmed obsolescence. Like we used to have washing machines 30 years ago that worked forever and they were great. And they decided they wanted to upgrade our washing machines and make them technologically more advanced. And now they can't wash worth a darn. And after 5 years, you need a new one. Whereas the ones we used to have 30 and 40 and 50 years ago could last you 20 years, 25 years. The fact that the ones today only last a certain number of years is built-in obsolescence. They are built so that you have to buy a new one. You have to replace it. Most appliances are like that. The physical body has a built-in obsolescence. It only lasts one incarnation and then it's gone. Everybody has the next body also. It's an exact replica of the physical one. even the defects. It's the etheric body, it's electric, and it's your immune system. The meridian system is part of the etheric body. The fact that it's electric means that you have to monitor the amount of electricity and radiation around you because you can create static, at which time you're affecting your immune system. And starting about 5 years ago, I was sketching and diagnosing a lot of people having static in their heads, and they could hear like this little buzz, a zip, like a little zap. And it was because they used their cell phone too much next to their head. They had too much Wi-Fi radiation uh, in their head, and it created short circuits. It created static. The brain is a separate electrical system from the etheric body, and so is the heart. And anytime you use headphones, they have magnets on either side. Your brain is electrical, magnets affect the direction of electricity. So people who use a lot of headphones do not remain the same. They have changes in their personality and definitely the health of their head. The etheric body, you can only have one, and it only functions on the etheric dimension. It can't go any other place. The next body is the interesting one. This one is magnetic, and it is composed of astral particles, like nanoparticles of emotions, and only of emotions. When until you're around 2, this body emotionally is about 2 years old. When you're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that body, if you didn't educate it, it still behaves like a 2-year-old, throwing tantrums. But society teaches us to not mature that body. Society teaches us to repress that body, at which time many of us have more than one astral body. It's not just people that used to be diagnosed as multiple personality. They don't use that diagnosis anymore. They call it dissociative disorder. But many people that are regular people have more than one astral body. And the way you can tell is if when the person really gets upset or they drink or they do drugs, if their face changes a lot, like it's not them, they have a spirit inside of them and they have another astral body. You can have many of these bodies. And you all know the story about me watching a guru giving a healing to 500 different people and seeing how he had one of his astral bodies next to each person in that room, which means he had 500 astral bodies. That was because of his intention to give us all a healing, and we were around 500 people. So this is the most interesting body. The etheric, the blue one, doesn't die when your physical body dies. The astral body does not die when your physical body dies either. And you can have those bodies all over the place. They were yours and they're yours, but they're not all together. The Mayans said that at this time, we would all start to have to deal with our sub-personalities, which would be astral bodies that we have split off from because we don't like, or we know that society doesn't like the emotions, the excess emotions that it contains. And the Mayans said that at this time, we would start confronting these sub-personalities, which a lot of people could describe as our dark side, that we hide away because we're ashamed of it or society won't accept it. This is the body that creates all of the messes. It's all about emotions, but it's your spirit. So if you don't like emotions, basically you're rejecting your spirit. Society doesn't like emotions. In business, they tell you leave it at the door when you come to work. And society won't take somebody who expresses themselves. They won't take it if you express yourself too much. or you're too emotional, they look down on you, think that you're either less refined or less intelligent, or you're out of control. So we don't do well by our spirit. Basically, we try to control it since we're a young child. Society controls it, which makes that body sick. And its version of sick is that it splits into another body that can contain those rages, those depressions, those desire to kill, etc. Then you come into the next body, which are those strings, and that used to be called the mental body. The in metaphysics and throughout history, they were not able to diagnose it in terms of what it looked like. I believe that I'm the first person that has been able to see these strings and to sketch them and to understand them. And I have a whole book written about them, which eventually I'll get to. But those strings were called the mental body. But they are 72,000 mind streams, and there's different levels of them. At the cell level, one of the levels are called telomeres. But let's continue. The mind streams, by the way, are also electric. The etheric body is made up of mind streams. It's also electric. Remember that, electric. And then you have your spirit that's magnetic. So you have an electromagnetic mess, because your spirit can be very messy because it's about emotions. So then inside the gold body, you'll see the chakras, but behind it, you need to look carefully. You'll see a gold double terminated funnel. That is the causal body, and it is the Holy Grail that has been sought after for centuries. And the Chinese say we are a combination of earth and the heavens. And the funnel at the top, it is true, does funnel in energy from above the heavens. And it is true that the funnel at the bottom does funnel in earth energies. And then we have, all the way to the right, we have the Merkaba. Now, the mental body strings, let me go back to that, extend into several dimensions, and they are what connect all the bodies. So they are multidimensional. The strings, the causal body, the gold funnel, is only on the causal dimension. The astral body moves around in 7 astral dimensions. The etheric body only exists on the etheric dimension, and the physical only on the physical. The Merkaba is capable of galactic travel. That is what it is for the human being to be able to travel off planet. And the interesting thing about this is that that body is apparently what a lot of these bad ETs that are coming in, that is what they want from us. Apparently, they don't have one of those to where they can, they have spaceships, obviously. I'm only giving you information that I get. And if I find out that I'm wrong and I made a mistake, I'll get back to you with that too. I'm not saying that I understand this. I'm not saying that it makes sense. I'm giving you information that I have in the same vein as I give all that other information I've been doing for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, a lot of which initially was like a little bit crazy. Where'd you get that from? That's not possible. It's the information that I get, and time will tell us. Time has told us that the crazy lady is not so crazy. Too many years of saying things that are new, that are innovative, that are forward, or that have been hidden, and everybody denying it, and then it turns out they're true. So I share this in that same vein. I have a track record, and I have no reason to make this up. So we'll see, and we'll see soon enough. So talking about dimensions, you have a presence on several dimensions, not just on one. And all of those vehicles are to be able to function in the different, for you, your mind to function in the different dimensions. And your mind is channeled through those strings and the Holy Grail. And then it, as a channel with it, the content in it of your mind, which is liquid, it interpenetrates the different bodies on the different dimensions. So the whole thing with dimensions is important that you know, but mainly because of the bodies that you have there, your presence on them, and what the rules and the regulations are for that dimension. Now, you have here several bodies. The etheric blue one is electrical, it's made up of mind streams. These 72,000 mind streams are electrical. The causal body is a big mind stream. They are all electrical, which means we better wake up to how technology affects electricity, because how it affects electricity is how it affects your immune system and the channels of your mind and your causal body, which is where cause is. And all those strings have DNA in them. And all the strings have one enemy, and that enemy is the element of fire. Nothing else can destroy the strings. So we need to find out more quickly than they found out in Atlantis, because the reason Atlantis went under was technology. Atlantis did not take the time to figure out what their technological advances were doing to human beings. They were too busy competing with each other. They had different temples, and they were very proud of their research and what they developed. And they had help from ETs from off planet. They didn't take the time to see how their developments were going to affect human beings. They were too busy competing. It doesn't feel like it was about money the way it is today. It was competing. Who had the next best discovery? Atlanteans also were very addicted to crystals. They understood the power of crystals. And I think you need to start learning more about crystals. Crystals have the energy of Earth, and Earth is really good and stabilizing for anything that's electrical, like your immune system, your Holy Grail, the channels that channel the liquid that's your mind. So, other dimensions, you have a presence in several of them. I'd like to take a moment to go into what has just happened on the national scene, that Donald Trump was found guilty of all of the charges. I feel that it was been almost impossible that they wouldn't have found him guilty because of the way the whole thing was set up. It was like impossible. It really was not about innocence or guilt. But I'm going to tell you a little story, and I was hesitant to he ever finds out about it, how he's going to feel about it. But many years ago, when he first came out on the scenes, I was called by Telemundo, which is it was at that point the #2 TV station in Spanish. You need to know that the TV stations in Spanish, their news shows would have more viewers than the biggest shows in English. We didn't get the respect, but we did have the numbers, and we were pitched to having to do with buying power. But we're not going to go there. So they asked me, I don't remember how it started. I think I was at a cocktail party and telling somebody something, and they asked me about Donald Trump, and I said, let me look at his past life, and then we'll know what he's all about. In a past life, which means it was probably several, and this is the case for all of you, he was a court jester. I'm going to put the words up on the screen for those who are not familiar. Court jesters were men, I'm not sure that there were any females, that were very bright, and they were hired to be in the court, the royalty court, to keep people entertained. And they were always very bright, and they would be controversial. They would say things that were controversial in order to keep everybody stimulated. He was a court jester. He was very, very bright. He was so bright and so on target with his comments as a court jester that the people in the court became afraid of him, because when he opened his mouth, he said the truth, even if it was a truth that nobody else would dare say. So they determined to get rid of them, and they had a very hard time getting rid of him, but they did get rid of him. So then I was told, asked on TV, what did I think would happen with the elections? It was right before the election that he won. I said, well, I think his past life pattern is that he does get thrown out. So I don't know. I don't think this is going to go well. Interesting, because he got thrown out in the past life. He won the election. He's getting thrown out. They're trying to throw him out now. And we're not going to get into whether the second election was rigged. But the point I really want to make is we all have past life patterns. And we repeat until we reach a point where we understand we can't do that anymore, and we work to stop repeating that pattern. Almost everything that we do is just a repeat of something we did many times before, many incarnations. So he is repeating. And I didn't have the vision or the wide lens at that point, and I wouldn't have dared to do it anyway, to look to see wider lens what was going to happen to him. I just looked at the past life and then came to a conclusion. The conclusion was wrong. Why was I wrong? Because I didn't take into consideration human intention and his intention to not getting thrown out because he says things that are true in that lifetime. In that lifetime, the things were true, but it made everybody uncomfortable. It was scary. He has a determination. He has an intention. He's like the ever-ready bunny. He gets knocked over, he gets back up again, and he keeps going. What are your past life patterns? Because being that this is the end of everything, and it really is, reincarnation, everything, maybe it would be good that you finally finish with what you've been dragging in for several incarnations. In my case, I usually lived away from civilization with animals. Like I was just an old man or an old woman, and I lived on a little farm up on a mountain with animals, no people. That'll work. And in other incarnations, I was a courtesan. I ended up being that again in this lifetime. With men of power, I was very bright. They liked me. They liked to chat with me. Da, 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 da. What did I do wrong in that lifetime, like in Atlantis? I was very powerful in terms of my third eye. And I could see that the people in Atlantis were addicted to crystals. Totally addicted. Crystals create a multiplier effect, which we're not really familiar with in modern life, but I suspect we're going to get familiar with it soon. And in Atlantis, they used to drink and eat crystals, but too much. It's not that it's bad to drink crystal water. We're promoting that right now, that everybody should drink labradorite water in order to kill the spirits that are internally, because labradorite basically kicks out spirits. But I could see that their addiction to crystals was causing the society to collapse. And I was very powerful. And I went ahead and I hid mountains of crystals because I didn't want them to have the addiction, because it was destroying families and society. I wasn't supposed to do that. This is a planet of free will. And if people want to have an addiction, they need it. Get out of the way, because they need that addiction. They're going to fall off the edge. And then they'll figure it out. They'll get it back up again and fall again, or they'll get up again and say, I don't want to do that anymore, and they'll self correct. We are not supposed to do the correcting for them. It was a huge mistake. That's a karmic sin. Huge. When I picked up that past life, I felt so ashamed. Interesting, right? Oh, I'm being a nice person. No, I was interfering with an entire society with what it is that they wanted to do. And they could have done it, collapsed, and then gone back up again. And I don't really know to what extent I was able to change things. I want to think that I didn't change things at all, that I simply made a karmic mistake and I'm not supposed to do it this time. And I am accused of trying to force people into healings or seeing things that they don't want to see. But getting back to Donald Trump, he has focused intention. None of us knows how this is going to end up. And I'm not talking about whether he was guilty or wasn't guilty. I'm not talking about whether this was a setup, his enemies, the unfairness, the fairness, that's what should happen. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about focused intention and being able to go through living hell and getting back up again because you were holding on so tightly to that intention. That is how we all should be. Now, hopefully, we won't have to. Let me adjust this a second. Hopefully, we won't have to go through what he goes through, even though I have in private settings. But that focused intention can give you superpowers to where you can do where anybody else would say that's not possible. Yeah, ever ready bunny, he can't keep going. I think he is going to keep going because he has focused intention. He has something that he wants to do. And you know what? Whether you believe it or not, and I'm not saying that I believe it, he wants to do it for other people. The same way Elon Musk bought Twitter, X, in order to allow people to say whatever they wanted to say. He did it not for himself. I can guarantee you that X has is like this building that he has to drag along with him. He could have been a lot more footloose and fancy free. He could have sold it in 2 seconds. He could have done whatever. But he has focused intention, and the intention includes helping others. We're in the age of Aquarius. Helping the community is supported. Not helping the community is not supported. So in terms of these two men, and there's many other people like that on X, all those whistleblowers that are coming forth, focused intention and a desire to help others, putting yourself at risk in order to help others is supported. So if this trial was not fair, there's going to be a lot of support simply because the type of behavior that he's exhibiting is supported in this era. Don't forget that when you set up your next business. Is your business or your project going to be supported by the energies that we have now entered? Or is it just about you and making money? Not going to be so easy. And then we're in Revelation, so everybody's going to know anyway at some point, and it will be embarrassing. So let's go ahead and I find it interesting that I ordered a very expensive bag, very professional looking, and I don't dress professionally anymore because I've had a very relaxed several years, and I do all of my work via email. But the very professional bag that I ordered arrived today. And today I decided to put something on that's been in my drawer for 40 years. And I decided to put it on, and it very much looks very important. And when I saw it, I went, you know what? Today is a really important day, like a before and an after. It's like a line has been drawn in the sand. And I guess the important thing is that you should feel proud of what you're doing. You should feel proud of what you're promoting. You should promote something that's dear to your heart, or you should work on stuff that's dear to your heart. And you need to vitalize that intention and not allow other people's intention to kind of truncate what it is that you want. Because basically, unless you're aligned with your mission, you cannot be happy from here forward. If you're aligned in your mission, you get Trump dragged off to jail, half the time he's going to be smiling. All the people that go after Elon, it's got to be like nerve-wracking in the sense of, oh my God, one more thing I've got to take care of. But in another part, it's like, okay, I know I'm doing the right thing, that I'm making these not so great people cranky. You need to be proud of yourself. You need to feel good about what it is that you're doing. And this hiding under a rock, when doing something bad and hiding under a rock, there's no more rocks anymore. Revelations. Okay? So thank you, Zos. Let me give you the mantra for aligning with your prosperous mission. Okay? And the mantra is, and actually, we're going to do the therapy session about your mission. Okay? And give me a second to get my desk aligned. Let me write the mantra. This is very uncomfortable. By the way, Telemundo did not ask me back for several years because I was wrong. Because they said, do you think he's going to win the election? And I said, well, his pattern would indicate no. I should not have said a word after that. I should have said that's his past life. And then I suspect they wouldn't have run the segment. But anyway. Okay, here's the mantra. Please God help me with my intention to align with my miraculously prosperous mission. And I think we all need to get grounded. I think there's too much bad energy out there, so I'm going to do the jungle music. And we're going to do 10 or 12 minutes, okay? Sound therapy. Sound is what heals the most. It also, by the way, is what breaks you the most. And radiation and Wi-Fi and 5G have a sound, which you're not allowed to find out about. Okay, how do you feel? I just realized that my reading of Trump's past life was totally accurate, which I always knew was my conclusion it wasn't because we have free will. But in that past life, he was a court jester. He was invited to be a court jester. And then he said so many truths, they needed him to shut up. And they had to throw him out because they couldn't get him to shut up. What was the most, for me, weird thing about this trial was how the judge was obsessed with Trump not saying a word. He passed some rules or laws or requirements of Trump not being able to speak because he was afraid of him speaking. That's why they got rid of him in the other lifetime. My final assessment did not take into consideration his vitalized intention to bring the truth to the table. Free will, which is like the most important law on the planet. But it is playing out right now. Played out. In that lifetime, they kicked him out of the court. It was a royalty court. This lifetime, it was a legal court. And he lost. But I suspect they're not going to be able to shut him up. This is the wonderful thing about reincarnation. At some point, you don't have to continue to repeat what it is that happened. And the big patterns you have are all corresponding and have a relationship to what is your mission. So he was preparing for this mission. Now, today, in at least one past life, I don't know if it was several, I don't remember, in which he was a court jester, and he said too many things that were true, that people in power did not want to have those truths be spoken or revealed. So I feel better about myself. My mistake was in underestimating human intention. So we're going to call it quits on that. I'm going to go ahead and close a little bit early because I'm getting a headache because of all the tension from today from the trial. And I am going to take belladonna, which is a homeopathic remedy. What is a migraine? Causal. Not what your doctor's going to tell you, just symptoms. You already know you got a headache. Migraine is when two parts of you, which would probably mean two bodies, two parts of you are fighting each other. You probably have two spirit bodies. I know that's crazy. That's not possible. Actually, it is. And those two parts of you that are fighting. And usually the part that is kind of lays low, but now comes up. In my case, it comes up now. And I'm sure in a lot of other people, it's going to come up now. It's a part that's very angry. But the personality does not want to exhibit those characteristics to show that they're angry or to get out of control. And so there's an internal battle, and that's what creates the migraine. I'm not sure there's any exceptions to that. I had somebody who worked with me for many years who was so civilized. She always had a sweet smile on her face, and she had to take care of a group of people that were very difficult. Older ladies that were always very difficult. And she just took care of it like a trooper. She had really bad migraines. She wouldn't get them that often, but she had really bad migraines. And it was all the frustration and rage and anger she felt at this group of people that she was in charge of. But she never showed it. She swallowed it and split there, another astral body. But when something happened that she would lose control of that spirit of hers that contained her rage, she would get the migraine and she would be incapacitated for 2 or 3 days. That's not happening here. I'm going to take care of it in a few minutes. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow because we're on Monday.